Hello, hello. Let me know if everything's working, because I don't know. I can be a little bit clumsy, but should be good. How are you guys doing? I mean, hope everyone's been doing all right. I mean, price action's been beautiful, so hopefully. But yeah, loud and clear, duck. Nice. Good to see you guys. How is life? The market's been good. Um, we've seen 2 weeks of straight up upside, which is very welcome. Um, so yeah, we have a little bit to talk about. Not that much, given altcoin's not been doing too well, but Bitcoin's been doing great. So we can talk about Bitcoin, a few altcoins, and then see what's up. Because of you, I'm rich again. Let's go. Love to see it. Love to hear it. Hey, Mr. Duck. How's Mrs. Duck and baby duckling? Very, very good. We had a ultrasound thingy just a day or two ago. Checked out the heart of the baby, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, everything's good. And yeah, he's gonna be amazing. Which is, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a wild ride. Hey Doug, thanks for streaming today also. Yeah, I mean, it's a Wednesday. We do a little bit of streaming on Wednesday, so yeah. Right when you drop the live, I'm taking off on a plane right now. We'll have to watch it after the stream. You'll catch it. It's not like it's time sensitive anyway. But yeah, let's go over Bitcoin real quick, and then we can do like a little bit of a Q&A or something, because I don't really have too much to say about altcoins really. And then we'll see where we go from there. High time frame, 6 days to close the monthly. It looks absolutely amazing right now, right? There's very little chance that we're gonna close below this, which is the first time that we've reclaimed a resistance. And I mean, I don't want to jinx it, obviously. It's still 6 days. But if we close above it, it's going to be the first time that we've closed above resistance since the bear market has started. The bear market has started by giving us a fake out to the upside, fake breakout that got faded. And ever since then, we haven't been breaking any resistances. We've only been losing supports, right? So there was this resistance here. You can see what we did. We traded into it. We rejected it, right? Other than that, no resistances tested even. Just the first one. And that's quite significant if you go and look back through history. It's very rare for Bitcoin to break a resistance, not just keep going. We broke this resistance in 2019 and retested it a couple times as support, rallied off of it. In general, you don't really see too many false breakouts on the monthly, right? I cannot really remember a single one. There's just not a time frame that does fake outs. This one being an example. Technically, like, this is a fake out, right? But the signal came from coming back into the range. So I wouldn't even say this was like an exception, because this is actually exactly what gave the signal in the first place. And this candle is going to do the same thing, just the opposite side. So that's a good look. Cannot really complain there. We'll see how it closes. 6 days to go. That's a good kind of chart to have. And here on the weekly time frame, we're just chilling, right? We made a higher high. This is a high. We made a higher high. We had a breakdown here due to the FTX news that we completely faded. We had the most bearish news come out down here. So the bottom wasn't really a good news thing. It was a bad news thing, which we love to see. Every time this happens, it has some legs, and so far this one has had some legs as well. I mean, just looking at this, it's up 50% since the low, which is quite significant, right? Been outperforming pretty much everything, and yeah, it's just chilling. It's chilling above areas that it has to be above, and as long as we don't lose 18, 19K here, nothing changes, right? I'm going to be bullish until we lose 19K. And yeah, I mean, the weekly also looks just good. I'm not going to shift anything. And for me, analyzing this is quite hard because it just makes sense to be bullish, but I don't know where to buy pullbacks and I don't know where to take profits other than 32K, just based on the fact that I wouldn't want to sell into this like 24K level. I don't like it. I don't like any monthly level either, unless it's like 35K, which is roughly in the area of 32K as well. So we're in a situation where I have no idea what to do other than just to hold, which is like if you have a position, it's a good position to be in. If you don't have a position, I'm the wrong guy to ask, because I honestly think we should be pulling back. I think this should just go sideways and then push another time. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see it, and I've seen a lot of people draw this and then something like this. I don't think that's going to happen. If you go down to 19K, more likely, I think at that point would be something like this. And then you'd make new lows. So for me, if we go to 18, 19K, I'll be thinking about whether I actually want to get out or not. So I don't want to see it pull back. I just want to see it go up, which obviously is not the best thing to say to people that don't have a position, because I mean, where the fuck do you buy? Do you buy here and then risk that it goes to 19K? That seems kind of shitty. This is why I tend to buy at the extremes, because it's so fucking hard to do business here, other than just blindly trusting your gut and selling or buying. There's not that much here. It's in the middle of the range, basically. And I think it's a good thing. The longer this kind of gives no entry, the better it is for all of us. So yeah, that's kind of Bitcoin, right? There's that we also have the daily time frame here. This is the old range. It's quite insane, honestly. We had this whole like range false breakdown down here, came back into the range. We talked about this setup a million times. When you come back into the range, you target range high. It's exactly where we are right now, right? But so far we've been just consolidating on top of it. Now, there is a possibility that this falls back into the range. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. I just don't want it. Basically, I don't want it to lose this. This is important structure that we've built. I want to have another push, and then we can go and retest this. We can also retest it, but I don't want to see this, because then, like I said, I think it's going to go down. So if we lose 20K, especially if it's going into the monthly, I wouldn't like it too much. But yeah, if I wanted to get positioned on low time frames, I'd pray to God for a wick to 21.1. But yeah, I'm not trading low time frames. Just a holder at this point. A lot of people expected a long bottoming process, but Bitcoin seems to have mimicked TradFi market bottoms, quick reversal out of the capitulation event. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, this is how I would want a bottom to look like. So for now, it looks to me like a legit bottom. And I'll change my mind once I see stuff that I disagree with. But until that happens, I'm just gonna be bullish. Moral of the story by the bottom. Moral of the story is like, if you get really strong bullish signals, you should probably take them, at least with a little bit, so you don't have to cope. Because if you miss a bearish entry, right, then you can just buy cheap. But if you miss a bullish entry, then you get fucked. So it's just I don't know why people are so obsessed with shorting. The bullish entry is so much more important. So yeah, you have to be a little bit more. If you short, you have to be risk averse as fuck. You have to be very, very careful with what kind of setup you choose. If you're like a bull that just buys, especially if it's not with leverage, it's much, much easier. No stop loss in case of a market dump. I don't have a stop loss. I don't really trade with stop losses. I have like invalidations and yeah, that's it basically. Like I have invalidations. If you go below a certain level, I want to sell as soon as I can. But other than that, not really trading stops. But then again, I'm not trading leverage right now. Are you from Germany? Yes, I am. So yeah, that's Bitcoin, right? Looks good. And I mean, this is not me coping. I wrote this like a while ago. We're in the looks good zone, so it looks good. Above 24K, it just looks amazing. Looks like a bottom. And then like if we go above here, we could do something like this. And I think then we would start creeping back up. And that'd be like a very good bullish structure in the making. So we'll see. For now, I am in team bull and I don't want to change up anything. Will you hold for a multi-year period or as soon as, let's say, a 2x happens? We'll see. I wouldn't mind holding for a multi-year thing. But it depends. It depends on how crazy it goes, right? Like let's say Bitcoin goes to 40K in one candle. I'm probably gonna sell that, and then I'm gonna try to rebuy lower. If it just grinds up, I'm probably just gonna hold because then I think like the best thing that you can see is this. You want to see this again, and if you see this on the weekly time frame, as in like something like this, where it grinds up like that, I would expect a straight up moon mission, and I can hold into that easier than like let's say we have this week closes like that, and then we have another week that does this. I'd probably look for a fade above like 37-ish. Like if it wicks there, I would look for a fade because I think that would be too much. Anything beyond that, like I just like I'm happy with holding because it's so simple. When you have a position like this, you don't want to risk it. I don't need to trade it around. I'm very comfy, and with trading it around, you risk losing the position. And as you guys have seen, it's really hard to get in, right? Because look at this. If you were waiting for weekly close, well, you got it, but the weekly closed at resistance, so you could argue, hey, and it even SFP'd the highs. So you could have argued, hey, you don't want to get in because it's a bearish setup, and then the next week just blew that out of the water. But you already missed this candle, which was a 20% candle. So like you didn't buy this because you were waiting for the close. Then you closed at resistance, so you didn't want to buy it. And then we closed above resistance. Now we're mid-range. You don't want to buy it, obviously, because it's in the mid-range. If you break that resistance, you're like, well, what the fuck do I do now? Like the same target of 32K is just like a little bit away. Where do I buy? And then like it's really, really difficult, right? Like getting an entry there is really, really difficult. And that's why if you have one, it's nice to just hold it tight. Would you say the bear market is over? I mean, I think so, but we'll see. I mean, I think bear market is over, chop market is on, but we could still get a lot of momentum ignition to the upside. So yeah, I think this part of the market is done. This part, not really, but we basically overshot this, so we can overshoot to the upside. So basically, like in general, Bitcoin goes down, Bitcoin goes sideways, Bitcoin goes up, right? Bitcoin goes down, sideways, up. You can go through the charts, you'll see that. I mean, it's like every chart does that. In this case, we had Bitcoin goes down, and I think we were supposed to go sideways here, but we overshot this. So I think like when you kind of have this and you overshoot this by a bit, you can go the other side even during this consolidation. So you could basically do the same thing that we did towards 16K up here. So basically we had this. We could easily get that because we overshot to the downside. And now we can overshoot to the upside because a bunch of people got absolutely wrecked. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. I think it's simple enough. So it sounds like you don't see us trading below the yearly open at all. Would be kind of crazy, right? I mean, it's only kind of crazy because so many people said we would be trading below the yearly open. And I mean, I don't know where the fuck these people came from. Like, basically, it's so easy to say that because you're almost always going to be right, but there's no fucking reason why we would have to trade below the yearly open, in my opinion. Like, I don't, like, what's the point? What's the need to trade below the yearly open? I don't really get it. If someone could explain to me why you have to go to the yearly open before you go up, or why you have to make a wick on a candle, I don't really get it. Like, you can, obviously, but why is it a requirement? I don't get it. Just does not make sense to me. Like, is this candle invalid because it didn't have a wick to the downside, or just like a $2 wick? I mean, it's odd. It's odd. Cannot really convince me with that kind of stuff. It's the same with candle. Like, whenever like I see candles that look like that look a certain way, and then you're like, oh, this is the free sparrow pattern. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, why is this important at all? I don't really get it. How about CME gap? I mean, there's a shitload of CME gaps above us. So how about those CME gaps? The thing is, right, with gaps and all that kind of shit, it's very likely, because markets move like this, it's very likely that you're going to close gaps. And it's very likely that you're going to trade below the yearly open, just because most of the time you move, like a price level gets hit like a couple times, because the market doesn't just like do this or that, but it doesn't have to. So like most gaps get closed, yes, because most prices get retested, but that doesn't mean you have to close all gaps to the down or upside. And it's the same with yearly opens and whatever. I like, for me, it doesn't really hold too much significance, but maybe I'm just too 250 IQ to get it. Because, I mean, yeah, I don't know. There's no reasonable explanation that I've heard so far. Because the probability of having a down wick, at least a small one on a candle, is high. Yeah, that's just what I said. But I mean, there's always going to be a candle that doesn't have one. And it's not necessarily like you'd bet on a candle always having one. Especially if the payoff is like shit. Anyway, that's Bitcoin. ETH is an interesting spot. Bitcoin kind of, and this is something you can see, right? Bitcoin, I outlined the support here, and I was like, oh, I don't want to see a trade below. ETH's kind of doing that retest on the daily time frame. But honestly, I don't really give a shit about how ETH looks. If Bitcoin keeps going up, ETH's gonna be okay. ETH's at resistance on the monthly. It's a shitty resistance, but it's whatever. And ETH's at support on the weekly. But in general, this doesn't really concern me too much. I think it's a Bitcoin market right now. And it's nice that Bitcoin made a new high. ETH made a new high, right? It's a higher high, technically. And I mean, I'm still bullish on it. I still hold the ETH that I have, but it doesn't really concern me how that looks as long as Bitcoin looks good. I'm just gonna, I basically have a Bitcoin position, and then I have like a couple altcoin positions. So I have exposure to the altcoin market, but I also want to bet on the market in general going up. That's why I have a Bitcoin position. And the moment Bitcoin kind of tops, I'm going to redistribute my Bitcoin position into altcoins. These are basically just, if I'm wrong, on my Bitcoin position outperforming everything else. I want to have at least some upside. So far, I've been very right with the notion that Bitcoin's just going to suck liquidity out of other stuff. We've had a few altcoins move up. We haven't had like all of the altcoins or like altcoins at large outperform. And I mean, I hate Bitcoin dominance. I always make fun of it. But I can quickly go over why I make fun of it. The reason why I think this is a shit metric is basically because Bitcoin dominance has like a bunch of ways where it always has to trend towards zero. I mean, it's never gonna hit zero, but it's trending towards zero. And the reason why is because this has just a bunch of altcoins in it. Like as in like the amount of altcoins always goes up, right? Every single year you have new altcoins. Every single day you have new altcoins, and it doesn't really take any volume for them to have quite the market cap, right? So you can have something with 100,000 market cap that has zero volume because everyone's just like, I'm not gonna sell this shit, or people just cannot sell. Then you have stables in it. The amount of stables is also always going up. It's been a long time since stables have decreased. So like they're all counteracting basically Bitcoin, and they don't really count in my opinion. So they make this thing trend towards lows, as in Bitcoin dominance going up is really hard. And when it goes up, you see that people are getting shafted. And we've had 2 months of upside on Bitcoin dominance. And yeah, altcoins have been struggling to keep up with Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to maintain forever. I've seen a bunch of people be like, oh, I thought Bitcoin dominance runs were a thing of the past. Now I think Bitcoin is just going to suck everything dry. It's not how I think it's going to be. I think it's just like temporary, basically. Until Bitcoin tops or close to the top, Bitcoin is probably going to outperform. And the moment that Bitcoin loses strength, you're going to see altcoins pop left and right. And that's kind of what you want to be seeing. So that's why I have a bunch of Bitcoin, like I said, a bunch of altcoins. And then I think the Bitcoin is going to outperform. The moment I think Bitcoin is nearing its top, I'm going to put that into the altcoins, make these positions larger, and then rotate those altcoins into USD. And then once that's done, rotate them back into Bitcoin. That's kind of my plan. But I do have Bitcoin and altcoins. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean it has to play out. And I like to be not sitting on the sidelines coping if something goes against what I think. Is Don part of the XRP army? I have a little bit of XRP, yeah. I'm not part of the XRP army. I think XRP is stupid, but I think it has upside quite a bit, so actually. Yeah. Hey Don, do you plan to hold for 12 plus months? Since in Germany you then don't pay taxes and profits. Depends on how shit the market looks like. There's a story, right, that I can tell you. A friend of mine started with me trading, like at least, I mean, I kind of was in it a little bit before him, but he entered with more. So we were like kind of on the same page, and started at roughly similar time. He was like the biggest altcoin degen that you could imagine, right? Bought a shitload of altcoins, and was iron fisted. Like he would never sell. He was like, this is gonna go 1000x, right? And then his portfolio went to 1000x basically, and during the bull market, and he was just holding, right? And he bought, and it went to 1000x like in 6 months, and he was like, I'm just gonna hold 6 more months. Why would I be selling? Because in Germany you don't have to pay taxes if you hold 12 months, so I'm just not gonna sell. Like, why would I? I don't want to give back like half of what what I made with this. And then the bear market hit, and the 1000x turned into 500x. And he was like, oh, well, fuck, this sucks, but it's still not that bad because I would have had to give up that half to taxes anyway. And then the 500x went to 250, and he was like, well, this just fucking sucks. I should have sold, but I still don't want to pay half of 250. Like, it's already much less than I had at the beginning, not at the beginning, but at like the highs. So I don't want to give up half. And it went to 100x. And then it went to 50x, and then basically he round tripped everything. And then the year was over, and he didn't have to pay taxes anymore. But he didn't have much gains left. He did make it all back in the 2020 run. Basically, got like a little bit fucked on a few projects, all that kind of stuff. But like he basically went from 0 to a couple million, back to 0, back to a couple million, back to like okay off basically, but gave back like a lot of millions in the process. So I'm not gonna be the guy that just sits there and ignores bad things just because I think okay, I'm 4 months out of the tax deadline, I'm just gonna hold. That's not how it's gonna play out. If I think the market looks toppy, I'm gonna sell. But yeah. So basically, he learned nothing, but was early. I mean, he made a shitload of money in like multiples. Basically, he started out with very little, and at the end of the day, he's still like he's comfortable. He's retired basically, but yeah. He had like, he went to, I think, almost 100 million off of like starting off with like 20,000 or something, just holding projects, iron-handed, Giga Chad, and they gave it all back and then did it again. It's quite funny. But yeah. So yeah, and I mean, when it was kind of funny because we're like always doing this together, and I outperformed him, and I was like, okay, this shit is like way over the top, like way crazy, and then I sold, and then his portfolio did another 20x, and then I was like, well, I'm a fucking idiot, and then his portfolio went down 95%. So I mean, you gotta be a little bit careful, a little bit sane about how you trade, and how you see risk. You don't want to get crazy with it. But there's a story in there, like there's a lesson in there as well, right? In that story, and I mean, if you get a good entry and you hold on, you can turn nothing into a lot. It's just eventually you have to sell. But usually people would sell too early. And I mean, I always sold too early. But I got to keep the money too. So I could not go through those kind of net worth swings. Like if your net worth just goes down by 95%, I mean, I'd just be like, okay, I cannot deal with this. But other people can. And sometimes they get rewarded for it. This live stream is so comfy. Thanks, Don. I appreciate it, man. We just take it a little bit casual. It's nice. I try to anyway, but yeah, that's ETH. I've talked about this for a while. This ETH BTC chart, and I've been saying I want to see ETH get wrecked in comparison to Bitcoin. Last 3 weeks have done a little bit of that, but it's been much stronger than I expected it to, which makes me think maybe we're already going to see a bounce from 0.066. This is my original target. If we go to 0.056, I'm going to convert most of the Bitcoin I hold into ETH. Up here, I'm still on the fence. So the story was so interesting. Please more of that in the streams. I mean, there's a lot of stories that I could tell, but I don't want to dox people. But I mean, there's a lot of traders that I've seen run up ginormous positions and ginormous net worths and give it all back as well. It's not just that holders are doing this. A lot of people are running their percent. Like I've seen people run up their accounts like 10,000x from nothing to millions, and then literally all the way back to zero. Just because, like, just whenever I see these people that share the P&L screens, right? Of like, okay, hey, I turned 0.1 Bitcoin into 100 Bitcoin. I'm such a genius. I feel like almost everyone that I know has done something similar on a Degen account. And how it works is basically you just like you have a high conviction bet at a certain point in the market. You go high leverage. You have the first 10x or 15x in the bag. There's a good chance that you get liquidated on a couple of those trades, right? But it doesn't really matter. It's tiny percent of like a 0.1 Bitcoin you can lose, and you do that like 10 times. At some point you hit it, and then your account goes parabolic, and you're on the right side of the trend. You trade with the trend, with the new forming trend. You run it up, but basically what always happens, and I've done this before, right? I have like a screenshot somewhere where I turned like 0.1 Bitcoin, I think, to 27 on BitMEX in the old days. And I was like, I want to go to 100 before I post it, because that'd be like quite cool. And then you just get it liquidated and you're like, okay, well, I mean, I start with 0.1 anyway. But that kind of shit happens all the time whenever I see people flex with it. I mean, like I could pull a million screenshots of friends or even of myself having done that. But it's not a good way to trade, and you're gonna give back. Like if you trade that way, you're gonna give back the gains. So like, I don't know, just be a little bit careful. Like the moment you go ego in this thing, you just get fucked. But yeah, these kind of like challenges are for fun anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, yeah, we can talk about, like, I can invite some people too, and then we can just chat shit about the good old days. So yeah, ETH's interesting. I want to see it trade down here. At like that would be my favorite entry up here. That would be okay. Well, I have to bite the bullet because I want to own it. But this is not necessarily why I want to do business. Litecoin, been an interesting one, really. Like, I mean, I bought it. It's never gone underwater. I bought it at 60. I traded it around a little bit, increased my position, made it better, got a better average on it. Like I've been like a little bit actively trading some of it anyway. But it's been good, right? So I bought it at 60, went up, it went back down to like 62 or something, and now it's made a new high. This is just very, very comfy, a comfy walk. The only thing that's uncomfy, obviously, is that it's outperformed by Bitcoin, but that's expected. Given Bitcoin's just going on this massive run, this is always what's gonna happen, right? My hope is that we're somewhere like doing something similar as here, right? So we went sideways here. We had this little bump. We had this little bump here, and then it started curling up. That's what we're doing right now, and then it started going sideways before going crazy, right? So that's my, like, I'm kind of like hoping that we're doing the same thing. Still just holding. Don't really care if it's outperformed by Bitcoin, because I hold Bitcoin for that. Like, I'm not like, it's not the end of the world. This is basically just to make sure that I have a decent position if it runs away from me, right? So it's up like 50% since my entry. 60 to 90 is 50%, which is quite nice. That's pretty much exactly how much like Bitcoin is up as well. So it's not like we've really been getting outperformed. It's just Litecoin outperformed early in the rally, and now Bitcoin caught back up. And I would like to see a little bit of outperformance of Litecoin again, but it doesn't have to. And given that I think ETH is probably going to head a little bit lower still, I don't think Litecoin necessarily is going to outperform in the short term, but we'll see. I'm just holding basically, and I'm doing that with like I have an XRP position as well that's been getting outperformed by Bitcoin, as you can see. I don't really care. I mean, the USD position went up, Bitcoin went up, so I'm making money regardless, and this has been going up a little bit. So yeah, and XRP is actually an interesting one because it basically broke out of the range again. Very weakly, but still, it's a breakout. It's one of the more interesting ranges, right? Yeah, I'm gonna rotate more into that the moment I see Bitcoin topping, because I think XRP is gonna be a cool play, and people are basically gonna trade around the lawsuit that's been plaguing Ripple Labs, whatever. I think it's an interesting trade. And then there's the momentum trades like Lido, that's been going crazy, but I'm not really liking these. Like, those are the places to trade if you're actively intraday trading, but given I'm not trading on leverage anymore, and I'm not really into the business of staring at the charts all day. I used to do that, don't really do that anymore. I'm not really trading these. I would like to have a Lido position, but not at 2.5. And if I miss it, I miss it. I don't really care too much. Lido's been doing this. Solana's been doing this, right? Solana's been going up and down 20% every other day. We've had a few of these Aptos as well. Those are the ones that you want to be trading. But I'm much more comfy. Like, these could just retrace 50% of the move, whereas the ones that move very slowly generally don't. So I'm more comfy holding for the longer term the bigger, more slow moving coins, but it's obviously this is the place to trade, right? So if you want to be trading actively, you just look for the high volume pairs, and you basically fade negative funding. But yeah. Don, will you take some profit on Litecoin at 100? No, not really. When rotating from Bitcoin to altcoins, would you go to USD first? Possible, but doesn't have to. We'll see. Any thoughts on Atom? I really like Atom. It's one of the ones that I really want to be buying, but it's been hard to get an entry. But actually looks really, really good. Like, I really like it. I've liked it since it basically reclaimed this. Yeah, it just looks good to me. This retest here and here is tested the level. Like, we've tested level twice. I don't think a third time would necessarily hold. So, I mean, a pullback, if it does give a pullback, and then I think a breakthrough through 15 could just take this to 21, which is very close to all-time highs again. Like, Atom's just been really, really strong. Atom is one of my favorites. I really like Uni too. Where is it? That's been like, I mean, it's not as good looking on the Bitcoin pair as Atom, but I really like it. Like, I'm trying to get a position in Uni. I'm trying to get a position in Atom. I'm trying to get a position in Lido. And I want to increase my positions in ETH, Litecoin. I mean, Litecoin maybe even not. I think I've got enough. And XRP. So that's kind of how I'm trading it. Those are the ones that I'm like looking at. There's a few more, and if I want to get like active trading wise, I would trade other coins than those. I think these ones are slow, but they're gonna be nice trades regardless. But yeah, if I wanted to kind of bet on the fastest horse, or like just actively trade, I would look at Solana, Lido, Aptos, and a few others. What Black Swan case would literally mean end of crypto? I mean, there's a few. Satoshi moving his coins, start selling his coins, we'd be fucked. Binance at this point, Binance going down, could take it completely down. There's a few, but I think they're all very, very unlikely. Do you also buy mid to small caps? Yeah, from time to time, but I will not share. Like anything that's small, I will just not share. You guys can do your own research on smaller stuff. I don't want to pump and dump anything, and I don't want to like buy a 10 million market cap coin and then post about it and it goes up 50%. Like anyone that does that is the scum of the earth, in my opinion, unless they plan on just holding for the long term, and in the long term as in like 2 years or something. But none of these people do. I've seen a lot of the big accounts like talk about coins with barely any liquidity, and then you can just push it up 50% through Finbooks. Fucking hate it. You're not going to see me do that unless I'm very convinced in a project that I think is just worth too little, and it's going to go up massively with enough liquidity for people to exit. But I'm just not interested. What about XTC? I haven't actually looked at Tezos in ages, but I think it's been outperforming others. Oh, beautiful. That very much did not work out. Glad I don't have a position. That looks horrendous. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, it's just the choppiest chart on the planet. Like this kind of stuff. I mean, I wanted to have a Tezos position. The NFTs are interesting, but yeah, not really. Like that's not really something I want to be trading. There's clearer charts, right? Like you look at this is the USD chart. And I mean, this rally, honestly, is not the worst in the world. I like this kind of stuff. When I see this has me interested. Problem is, I mean, it's okay, I guess. But this one's hard. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be bearish on it just given the recent rally. Like this is just beautiful. But longer term, it's just a rough one, a really, really rough one. So if you have any fundamental reason to be bullish on this thing, I mean, be bullish on this thing. I like the low time frames. The high time frames are horrendous. Like this is just horrendous. But if you have a good reason to be bullish, I mean, there's at least your daily chart that's on your side. So, yeah. Don, if you did not have liquidity issues and already a big bankroll, how would you approach this phase of the market? I mean, the same way I'm doing it now. Just buy positions, hope that they're playing out. Back in the day, I would probably actively trade like stuff like Lido and Solana and stuff. But very similar to what I'm doing. Like it's overrated. Like jumping in the trenches and doing all the hard work, I think is overrated if you can just position yourself well and ride the wave in general. But that's might just be me. So, yeah. But yeah, if you, like I said, if you want to actively trade, there's good places to trade. It's basically where the volume's at. You're going to get the most trades there and the biggest moves. It's just easy come, easy go, basically. So you got to be a little bit careful on those fronts. But yeah, now it's devolved into people asking me for the altcoin charts. I think they all look roughly the same. If you're bullish on altcoins, be bullish on altcoins and buy whatever coin you want to be buying. It's probably all going to be roughly moving the same way. Dogecoin's back at support too. So I mean, there's not that much for me to say on the altcoin front. Curve is an interesting one. I don't want to do it on KuCoin. Is there a better one? This is good enough. Like, that's an interesting one in general. Maybe you get something like this. But yeah, the altcoins, like, when you think, I mean, I've been saying I think the altcoins are going to get outperformed by Bitcoin, right? So all of these setups are basically just mirroring Bitcoin's strength, but just weaker than that. Like even Uni, I like that a lot, and it's just been much weaker than Bitcoin. And so until that changes, there's no real rush, and that's why I don't want to look at use altcoin. Like, look at ADA, for example. There's nothing really there on the Bitcoin chart. There's gonna be something there at some point, but right now there's just not. Have a look at Zcash. Well, that's just, oh, Jesus Christ. Beautiful, huh? Can you imagine that some people, I mean, can you imagine that some people traded 250 Bitcoin? I mean, they obviously didn't, but like they kind of exchanged Bitcoin to Zcash at the price of 1 Zcash for 250 Bitcoin. And now they're down horrendously. That's quite crazy, huh? Like, people actually believed Zcash would be the next big thing. And yeah, well, now it's not anymore. Well, also ancient drawings from me. I was like, well, this is just beautiful. What is it delisted for a while? It's like, this is the same old like range, loss of range, come back to have a second leg that we've had a million times on other coins. But yeah, Zcash is just sad, honestly. Like, this is just sad. I would stay away. I cannot recommend. But yeah, I think that's enough. There's nothing really on the altcoin front that I want to entertain. You guys just look for the altcoins that you like the best, right? The ones that you think has some fundamentals, whatever, all that kind of stuff, the good old memes. And then you wait for the market to turn, and then you just buy that shit and hope that it goes up. That's kind of the way I'm doing things. Like I said, I'm gonna buy a few projects, but nothing like crazy out there. I'm not really in the mood to buy the 5 million market cap coins. I'm gonna buy like the stuff I know and like. Probably not gonna give the best returns, but it's at least something that I know that I'm not gonna get rugged on. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Hope it helped somewhat. It's a little bit rough doing like a longer stream when altcoins just on average just are boring. So yeah, we'll do longer the moment things start looking up again. I think that's a better use of our time, and then we'll see. But so far, I mean, Bitcoin just looks great. No concern there. And I'll keep you guys updated. Much love. Bye bye.